do that all day long. That sounds like a song from Toy Story. Anyway, welcome everybody to Dulcimerica. My name is Bing Futch. Thank you for joining me. So this is part 8 of a 9-part series on chord progressions. We started very, very basic, moving around your basic major chords, your 1, 4, 5. We learned how to play in a key, setting the rules for the game that we were about to do. Learning that key signature, those 7 notes that make up our melody and also build our chords. How to move them around, both major and minor. How to play in major keys versus how to play in minor keys. Learning about harmonic function, and all of that has been within this box of diatonic living, right? And then all of a sudden we started to bend some rules and introduce other elements, like changing from a minor scale, the natural minor, to the harmonic minor in order to reharmonize our chords and give us some more emotion and feeling that we can work with. That was just the tip of the iceberg, because now the floodgates are open and we're going to look at chromaticism. Chromaticism basically is taking a diatonic setup like we've been studying, but reaching outside of that diatonic staging to pull in notes from the chromatic scale and also chords from the chromatic scale. We know that the chromatic scale has 12 notes, the diatonic scale has 7 notes. So when you're playing in a key, there are still 5 notes outside of the key that you can bring in one at a time, and they will create these extra bursts of color, which makes sense because the word chromatic comes from the word chroma, which is Greek for the word color. Now I do have the standard frets, 6.5 fret, 13.5 fret. I also have the 1.5 fret and the 8.5 fret. Most of what I do here will be focused on the standard frets that most people have, the 6.5 and 13.5, but I will be using the other ones to show you some of what you can achieve by using that, because I know there are some people out there who do have those frets on their dulcimer, and people who are probably waiting to see what good it will do in order to get those frets on your dulcimer or your next dulcimer, as that case might be. So this might sometimes serve as a commercial for why to get the 1.5 and the 8.5 together. All right, so let's take a look at chromaticism and how we can use it. If you have not gone back and seen the prior 7 episodes and you're starting fresh with this one, you might want to go back to episode number 555 and follow us all the way through, because I'll be talking about things here assuming that you know, and either they're going to intimidate you or frighten you or both. So please, if you haven't seen any of this series, go back, check it out, and then I'll still be here waiting for you on episode number 8, and we'll keep moving forward. All right, so the first technique of chromaticism that we're going to look at involves using secondary dominants. So you're probably familiar with the word dominant. We've used it quite a bit, and we're going to use these secondary dominants to add and inject bits of color and sparkle and feeling to otherwise basic chord progressions. Now, the dominant is the chord that's built on the 5th scale degree, and it pulls very strongly to the tonic or the 1 chord. Here's an example in the key of G, and key of G has F sharp, just 1 sharp. And so let me go ahead and play a little progression here for you. We'll go from G, that's the 1 chord, B minor, the 3 chord, the 6th chord, E minor, D chord is 5, and then we have a D7, and then back to G. G is the tonic and D is the dominant, so when we make it a dominant 7th chord, the payoff moving from D7 to G is awesome. That is really good stuff. Now this same technique works for minor keys, so let's do A minor, which has no flats and no sharps, and I'll play 1, 7, 4, 5/7, that dominant chord there, and A minor. So I got A minor, G, D minor, E7, and A minor. Check this out. Sweet, huh? That's some really nice stuff we got going on there. So first we've taken the 5 chord, the minor 5, which is E minor, and we've altered it by making it E major. It includes a G sharp, which isn't in the key of A minor, one of those 5 notes from outside the scale, and that's what brings in that unexpected pop of color, especially when we make it a dominant 7th chord. It just leads to the tonic very nicely. Now, we're going to do the exact same thing, but this time we're going to tonicize a chord other than the tonic. That is, we're going to create a temporary tonic as our target chord. Let's go back to G major and set our target chord as A minor. That's the minor 2. We're going to build this on the 2nd scale degree, and we'll do a 1, 2, 5 progression. G, A minor, D, and G. Okay, very, very basic, nothing weird going on, just kind of your basic deal. Now we'll find the secondary dominant for A minor, starting with the root of the chord, which is A. We'll go up an interval of a perfect 5th, and we land on E. Now we make it a dominant 7th, which is a triad, a major triad with a minor 7th interval added. We get E7 now, and this is our secondary dominant, and it's going to resolve to A minor, as if A minor was the root instead of G major. So we'll end up with G, and then E7 is going to be our secondary dominant leading into A minor. So hop into it as if it's the 1 chord, like we're going home. But then, surprise, we're going to keep going to the 5 chord, D, and then we'll end up at actual home, G, back to the tonic. Let's hear how that sounds here. We'll do it up here for maximum effect. Here we go. G. Very fun. It leads right into that very nicely. Let me voice this a little bit differently now. I love the pull of that dominant 7th, and it just kind of makes for magical movement, especially if you're trying to figure out what to do with a particular chord progression, or if you've done the same old progression over and over again and you just want to change things up a little bit. You can do this to any chord inside of your scale just by going to that chord, going to the root of that chord, going a perfect 5th above the root, choosing that chord, making it a dominant 7th, and placing it right before you get to the chord that is your target. Let's do this another one here in the key of G. How about a simple 1-5 chord, just 1 to 5 chord progression. We're going to temporarily make D the tonic by taking the root and going up a perfect 5th to A. This would be A minor normally, but we're going to make it an A7 chord and play it right before the D like this. G, A7 to D. So let's go G to D first. Now let's add our A7 in there. Bam! That A7 provides such a neat little burst of colorful energy right there, instead of just simply going from 1 to 5. We can hang out with it a little bit longer too. A7 contains a C sharp that's not in the key of G, but it brings a sweet little accidental with it, and that's what we're going for. It can be a little tricky without access to all the chromatic notes, but extra frets make it a bit easier. You can also drop the major third interval out of the dominant seventh chords, and they still work really well. Let's tonicize the sixth scale degree in G major. That's E minor. And we could go from 1 to the 6th chord to the 5 chord like this: G, E minor, and D. Okay, that's a very pleasing progression. That's very, very nice stuff, mixing up our majors and our minors. Or we could start from E, okay, go up a perfect fifth to B, and so we're going to make a chord that is a dominant seventh off of that root. So we're going to make a B7 chord. Now it's the secondary dominant that leads to E minor, and we'll stick that in between the 1 chord, our tonic G, and the chord that we're tonicizing, which is E minor, our 6th chord. So now we're going to stick that B7 right in the middle, and check this out. Very, very nice stuff. Now B7 is B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. But all I'm playing is a 5-5-4 chord, which is just the B, the F sharp, and the A. The root, the perfect fifth, and the minor seventh. There's no major third there, but the chord still works. So secondary dominants are a neat technique that you can use to bring a splash of color into your progressions. The next thing we'll look at is chromatic mediants, and basically that's going to be where we take our mediant chords, the 3 and the 6, and we're going to alter them. And the mediant chords, remember, are they're a distance, an interval of a third from the root. So, you know, if we go from the root of a chord, your 1 chord or your tonic, your mediant's going to be your 3 chord. That's going to be a minor chord. And then if you went downwards from the root, you'd find the 6, and that's also a minor chord. Mediants are really, really cool because they don't have a whole bunch of punching power, but if you want to connect a lot of dots together in your chord progressions, the mediant's a great way to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to take the mediant and we're going to alter it using a particular little technique that's going to inject a little bit of drama and flair. Now, there are a number of ways to do chromatic mediants. You can switch a major chord to a different major chord, like flattening the note. By keeping the same root or at least one common tone, you could totally get away with this. We can go from a major chord to a minor chord. We can also go from a minor chord to a major chord, and we can also go from a minor chord to a different minor chord. Typically, you can hold that root as the same, or as long as you have one common tone, if you voice it a certain way, you can actually throw a lot at your mediants and cause some really interesting things to occur for your music. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what we can do here. Let's do something in C major. In C major, we've got E minor, which is the 3 chord. And we have A minor, which is the 6 chord. So let me go ahead and play this progression. It's a long one, so it's up on the screen here for you. We'll start off with C, A minor, to F, to G, E minor, to F, to C, to G, and back to C. 1 chord, 6th chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 3 chord, 4 chord, tonic, 5 chord, and back to the tonic. That's a nice mixture of major and minor. It makes a nice little journey. It's not a short progression. It actually takes you away from home for a while and brings you back a couple of times before scooting back out the front door again. Now, we're going to take the mediant and the submediant, and we're going to switch them from minor chords to major chords. So where we had A minor, we're going to play A major, so it'll be a major 6. And where we had E minor, we're going to make it E major, the major 3. Now, listen to what happens with our progression. I'm going to voice it a little bit differently this time. Wow, isn't that different? And it's just, because our ears are so used to hearing things in a diatonic context that when something doesn't fit within that box, it leaps out at us in a really, really large and spectacular way. So chromatic medians is a great way of putting a spotlight on whatever emotion it is that you're trying to bring out. I find that when you take a chromatic mediant that is normally a minor chord, and you change it to a major chord, that major chord, already kind of sunny and happy and jazz handy, it's even more bright and shining than before. Whereas you could take a major chord and turn it into a minor chord, and that minor chord just comes, it just really lands with a big resounding thud in the middle of your emotional stew. It's really, really cool how it just shines a spotlight on whatever you're changing and whatever you're altering. So you can use that to your benefit when you're composing, writing, or even transposing. Remember, you can do this to rearrange and reorchestrate songs that already exist as practice before you go and write your own stuff. It's a lot of fun. Let's do something in C sharp minor. I know it sounds like we shouldn't be able to do this, but we actually can. So we're going to make C sharp minor our one, that's our root, our tonic right there. And then the 3 chord, major 3, is going to be E major. Then our B, which we're playing a B5, we're not playing the major 3rd, but that's okay. And then F sharp minor for our 4. That's a nice progression right there. Now I'm just going to alter the median, and I'm going to switch the E to an E minor. Let's see what that does. Wow, that E minor just goes boom! It just comes in there and just, it's haunting, it's really mysterious. And again, that's the power of the chromatic median. It really highlights the things that we change. And so if you come in there and you just make your decisions in a certain way, it's really going to have powerful, powerful effect in everything that you do. That's part of the fun of starting to switch these rules around and play outside of the box, because we get a lot of really interesting surprises when we start switching around things. Now, as a preview of what's to come in our final installment next week, I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of voice leading. We've been focusing on moving these chords, and they're all kind of shifting around laterally on the fretboard, But remember, inside of each triad are 3 individual notes, all on their own little journeys. And if we're moving them all over the place, sometimes they don't connect the way they should. The idea here with voice leading is to try to move those notes as little as possible. The smaller the move, the more pleasing the sound, and the more it all ties together. So we're going to show you one more little trick here as far as injecting some bits of chromaticism, and that's going to be looking at a single harmonic figure, a line that runs through a series of 3 chords. We can walk this chromatic progression up, or we can walk it down depending on the emotion that you're going for. This is one of my favorites right here. It's going to be the 4 minor 4 to the 1. So F major, F minor, and C. F major L shape, F minor extended, and C extended. So that's great. I love those 3 chords. They're kind of sorrowful, you know, but notice how much I'm hopping to get from one note and one chord to the next. It's a lot of hopping, skipping, and jumping around. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play them to where I'm not moving around so much and use some different chord shapes. Listen to the progression now. Wow. Not only are you not chasing your own hand up and down the fretboard, but it really sounds more cohesive as a string of chords. And notice that there's not a lot of change going on here at all. In fact, the only note that's moving is the middle string between the F and the F minor. And then finally, when I change to the C chord, one more note moves with it. But it's really all about this descending line from A to G sharp to G. That little chromatic walk down is what we're focusing on in 3 chords. And that is the power of thinking about one line to preserve chromaticism and allowing those other notes to hang back and don't do a lot of work. Maintain these common tones so that our chords run smoothly together. Let's take a look at another thing. We're going to reverse this whole descending chromatic, and we're going to do an ascending action from minor to major. We'll do a minor 5 to 5 to 1 in the key of D. So it's A minor, A, and D. So we'll go here. That's nice. So maybe the prior progression was more about heartbreak and sorrow, but maybe this one starts off kind of sorrowful, and then things start looking up, and then even better. That melodic line we've got is a chromatic walk up that's going up. That works out very nicely. So again, we're concentrating on just moving one line and keeping the other notes steady as support to showcase that line. And we're still playing 3 different chords. We're just not moving as far to actually voice them. In the words of Ted Arroway from the movie Contact, small moves, Ellie, small moves. All right, let's do one more like this using the strange but effective augmented chord. Remember, this is a major triad with a sharpened or raised 5th. So there are 2 chromatic notes rising between 2 chords already. We just need to land somewhere for that 3rd note in the line. So for this, we'll use an A augmented chord. We'll go from A, the 4. We're going to raise that 5th and then end up with our tonic D major. Nice stuff, huh? Let's do the same thing with key of A. We'll play E, the 5 chord, and then we'll play the 5 augmented, and then play our root or tonic A major. Very, very nice. So it's a little strange when we first hit that augmented, and then it gets very, very nice and sweet at the end. Those are 3 examples of chromaticism, again, involving voice leading that just has one chromatic line that we're focusing on between 3 chords, and the other notes are really chilling out and supporting that chromatic line. So I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive again into chord progressions. We're starting to bend and break those rules, and we've come full circle from diatonic to now including chromatic elements in our progressions. Next week, we're going to tie it all together with a recap, and we'll talk a lot more about voice leading and how we can use that not only to improve how we play our music, but to improve how we hear our music as well. Practice a little bit every day, everybody. Have a great week, and I will see you next time through the eyes of love.